Brittany from Brittany Loves Reading, and today I'm coming to you with my August version of Timmies TBR. Let's start with a little bit of housekeeping first. First of all, you may hear the air conditioner in the background. I will try to edit it out in editing, but I don't know if I'll be able to do that. So I do apologize if there's kind of just white noise in the background of this video. It is extremely hot here today, and Canadian homes are not meant to keep the heat out. They're meant to bring the heat in and hold it in for the winter. So we are not equipped for such things, and it is much too hot to turn it off. So we are just gonna ignore it. By September, it will be cooled off. So it's just for a couple of videos over the next few weeks while we're in the hottest part of summer. So we're just gonna make do. So I just wanted to start off with that. Second of all, you may or may not know that I am a co-host this month for the Blue team for Amazing Readathon. Amazing Readathon is the brainchild of Bree from Four Paws in a Books. I will link Bree down below, and also my fellow Team Blue co-hosts. And it is a competitive readathon based off the Amazing Race. I will be participating in it, obviously, as I am a co-host for Team Blue. So a lot of my choices for Timmy's TBR, I am going to try to make blue, because we get extra points for reading blue books. And since blue is probably realistically the easiest color to make that work with, I will be reading, hopefully, pretty much all blue books for the month of August. That's my goal. We'll see how it goes, but that is my goal. So if you're wondering why I'm picking so many blue books and why I'm going with just one color, that is why. If you don't know what the Amazing Readathon is and would like to know more information, the link to the announcement video is down below, and I highly recommend joining Team Blue. That is the only readathon I am participating in this month. We don't actually know the prompts for the readathon as of starting. We get a new prompt every couple of days. So I'm just gonna cross my fingers and toes that the books that I pick that are blue will work for the Amazing Readathon prompts. I will be vlogging my experience, so you'll get to see that as the month goes along. So you'll eventually know if I get any of these books read. I certainly hope I do, but hopefully also Timmy's TBR is kind of nice to me and leaves me some room to read outside of Timmy's TBR. It usually does. So we're gonna send good vibes to Timmy's TBR. However, let's look at last month, and you'll see why I might be a little nervous for this month. So last month, Timmy's TBR gave us 5 books. The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo was a thriller, and I have read that. Julia Vanishes was for a cover I did not like, and as of right now, and I can pretty much guarantee it, I have not read this book, and I will not be reading it this month, which means it's floating over into August. Paris Delacourt is About to Crumble was for a baking romance. This is also floating over into August. Now you will see, or you might be able to see, it does have a bookmark in it. I have started it, but it's not even I've just started. I'm 30, 40 pages in. It's very early days. Now there is still a couple of days left in July, so I might finish it in time, but I'm not sure if that's the case because I'm trying to finish off a few things for videos that will be coming out while I'm working on the Amazing Readathon. So it's iffy if that's gonna get done in July. If not, it's gonna be floating over into August. It's not blue. At least Julia Vanishes is blue. You know, it's fine. Everything's fine. The Inheritance Games was my free pick, and I have read that. And The Great Alone was for favorite author. And unfortunately, I ended up DNFing this book. I read about 125 pages and just decided it was too much of a family drama for me, which is not my favorite type of story. And I ended up DNFing that book. So as you can see, I already am starting next month with 2 books on my TBR. Not exactly how I wanted to go into Amazing Readathon, but here we are. So let's jump into the first Timmy's TBR roll and see how it goes. Roll number 1 is a 3, a coffee space, a fantasy book. So we have our first roll, which was a coffee space, and we ended up with a fantasy card. For this, I'm actually going to be picking a book that I have on KU. because the lovely Rye from Rye's Reading Corner, who is one of my fellow hosts for Team Blue, has asked me to be co-host for their book club in August, which is the Book Club Unlimited that focuses on books that are on KU. So that is the book I'm going to be slotting into this spot, and that is A Trial of Sorcerers by Elise Kova. This follows an 18-year-old girl named Ira. Ira is a water runner and is basically kind of considered a low-level sorcerer. People don't really pay attention to her. They don't expect much from her until she decides to enter the Trial of Five Kingdoms. And she has to beat out the best sorcerers in the land to become one of the 4 champions. This is also listed as a fantasy romance. Not sure where that plays in or if it even plays in book 1, because this is the start of a series. But I'm excited to read this. I'm excited to join Rye for the month of August. If you want more information, I have linked Rye down below, so definitely go check that out, because I'm sure we will have a fantastic time reading this in August and discussing it. I think the live show is going to be sometime very early in September, but don't quote me on that. Rye will have all the information, so check that out. And I'll post stuff on my Instagram too as I know more about it. Let's jump into roll number 2. Roll number 2 is a 7. Another coffee space, a historical fiction. Roll number 2 was another coffee space and worked out to be a historical fiction. And I will say I found this a little hard because right now I'm not in a historical fiction mood. Not feeling the historical fiction, but I went down to my shelves and I only had one blue historical fiction. So that kind of actually made the decision for me. And that was Once Upon a Wardrobe by Patty Callahan. So in this book, it follows Meg, and this is a historical fiction based off The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, or the Narnia series, as you may know it. I loved Narnia when I was growing up. Now as an adult, I can see that there are certainly some issues with the books, but they still kind of have a nostalgic place, especially The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe book 2 in my heart. So I picked this up for that reason, and it's been sitting on my shelf ever since. This follows Meg. Meg has a little brother who is obsessed with Narnia and wants to know where Narnia is from. Meg is a scholar. She's more into science and numbers, and her brother wants to know what was the inspiration for Narnia. So because Meg is a scholar and is in the university world, she actually has a way of contacting C.S. Lewis and ends up sitting down with him at Oxford for lunch and kind of trying to figure out what his basically inspiration for Narnia was. And she becomes a little bit perplexed why he won't tell her. That's what I'm getting from the synopsis. And it is historical fiction, obviously, as it's based on C.S. Lewis's kind of writing and his life, which is obviously historical. So this is what I will be putting on my TBR for historical fiction. Roll number 3 is a 6. We have a donut space, which is a queer romance. So for roll number 3, we ended up getting a donut space and a queer romance. For this, I'm actually going to be picking up a book that I just bought as part of my Shopping for Blue books for the Amazing Readathon, and that is Mistakes Were Made by Meryl Wilsner. This is a sapphic romance that I'm very excited about. It sounds kind of messy, and there's also an age gap romance, so things that I'm pretty excited to read. This follows Cassie. Cassie is at university and does not want to be around for family weekend. So Cassie goes out of the campus, goes to a bar to kind of escape away, meets someone, and has a one-night stand with this woman from the bar. The next day, her best friend wants to introduce her to her family. And who is her best friend's mom? Well, it's the woman she hooked up with at the bar. And that was all of the synopsis that I need to read to know that I needed to read this book. I expect drama, and I'm here for it. I'm here for every minute of it, and I can't wait to read this month. Roll number 4 is a double 2, which is a donut space. Apple Fritter, a book with fruit on the cover, times 2 because it's doubles. So I'm not gonna lie, Timmy's TBR has done me dirty with a doubles on this donut space. And if you don't know, doubles means I have to double the prompt, which means I have to pick 2 books for this prompt. This prompt was Apple Fritter, a book with fruit on the cover, which was not easy. I'm not gonna lie. To find 2 blue books that I owned or had on my TBR in some way, shape, or form that had fruit on the cover. This took me a minute to find. It took me a minute. But I have come out on top. The first book that I will be using for this prompt is called Sweet Nothings by Sheila Norton. This has been on my TBR for at least 2 years. I have owned this book for a long time. I think I picked it up in a little free library forever and a day ago. And to be honest, it probably would have sat and collected dust for a lot longer had I not gotten this prompt. So I guess it's a good thing that Timmy's TBR is getting me to read this. If you're wondering where the fruit is on the cover though, you will notice down here on the cupcakes, there is like a cherry. And we're gonna go with it. That's fruit. It's on top of the muffins. So cupcakes, whatever they are. This follows our main character, Michelle. Michelle is out to lunch with her boyfriend, Robbie, when he gets up to, I think, use the bathroom and never comes back. This is not a first date. This is her boyfriend. And I mean, things with Robbie were not perfect, it says in the synopsis, but that seems a bit ridiculous to just cut and run in the middle of lunch, but that is what has happened. Michelle's mother, however, goes on a radio show and becomes kind of famous because she says the secret to her happy marriage with her husband is actually the magic of her bread pudding. Is there something actually magical about this family's bread pudding? Or is it just like a family myth? We don't know. We don't know. Michelle doesn't know, and Michelle's starting to think maybe she should start using the family magic to keep her man. Honestly, I do not know how this got on my TBR. I think because it kind of had a magical element with the bread pudding, and it was kind of cozy sounding, and it was at the little free library. I'm pretty sure that's how this happened. But at the time, I was not in my romance era, so I don't know why this is on my TBR. I'm assuming it's a closed door romance, if it's even a romance. I don't even know what this really is. But it has fruit on the cover, it's blue, and it's been sitting on my shelf forever. So I guess apparently I'm gonna read it in August. The next book that works for this fruit on the cover, and again, I'm trying to stick with blue, was a book that I actually picked up during Stuff Your Kindle Day. And I'm gonna read it, which is great because this will be the first book from Stuff Your Kindle Day that I've actually read. I'm kind of bad about putting things on my Kindle and then forgetting they're there, but anyway, this is what it is. And that is Snow So White by C. Gawkel. This is a retelling, which is how I came to pick it up on Kindle, Stuff Your Kindle Day, because I love a retelling. It's clearly a retelling of Snow White, and it is the start of a series of urban fantasy retellings of fairy tales. That is pretty much all I know about it, but that's all I really needed to know to pick it up because I love a retelling. I will read any retelling someone wants to give me, realistically. So this is what we're going to be reading for the second book for this prompt. Let's jump into roll number 5. Roll number 5 is a 7. And that's a donut space. I hope you can see that. I need to move the board down. A book over 500 pages. Okay. Timmy's TBR is being mean to me. Please send help. This was not the month it should be mean to me. I needed it to be kind to me, and it's being mean. Because we are not at the end of the board. We're on our 5th roll, our 6th book, and it gives me a book over 500 pages. Rude. Just rude. But for this, I do have a solution. I will be reading a book that I have to read because my friends love this book, specifically Margaret from the Word Nerd. Margaret has been going on about this book since they reread it and read the sequel over the last few months. I was there on sprints as Margaret was reading both the first book and the sequel, and I just saw Margaret's passion about this book and I needed to pick it up. It went on sale on Kindle and I ended up grabbing a copy of Little Thieves by Margaret Owen. I have to read this book. I know literally nothing about this book, So I'm just going to read the synopsis off Goodreads because I could try to put it in my own words, but it's kind of complicated and I think I would just mess it up. So we're not going to try. But the reason this is on my TBR is really because Margaret loves this so much. Leandra from the TBR Zero also ended up loving this book. So I have a few friends who have read both the first and the second book in the series and have just adored them. So I need to be a part of that. I need to be a part of it. So Vanya Smith knows that no gift is freely given, not even a mother's love, and she's on the hook for one hell of a debt. Vanya, the adopted goddaughter of Death and Fortune, was Princess Jezebel's dutiful servant up until a year ago. That was when Vanya's overworldly mothers demanded a terrible price for their care, and Vanya decided to steal her future back by stealing Giselle's life for herself. It sounds great. I've heard, like I said, not even just like great things, I've heard amazing things about this series and this book. So it is now on the TBR, and I can finally know what Margaret and Leandra have been gushing about. I can stop feeling the FOMO for Little Thieves. Roll number 6 is a 7, a Timbit space, random color generator. For our 6th roll, we ended up getting a Timbit space and color generator. I did a color generator on Google and got this color. And for that, I have picked up the book, The Marriage Game by Sarah Denzi. And as you can see, these flowers are almost exactly the color of that color generator. Like it is so, so close. So this follows Lila. Lila is not having the best luck in the dating scene and has decided to move home with her parents, move back to San Francisco and move home. Her father owns a restaurant and says, I'm going to help you. You can start a business. It doesn't say what kind of business she will be starting, but you can have an office in the upstairs of the restaurant and start a business as long as you join a dating site, which Lila does. Lila does join the dating site. However, she does not know that her father, along with that, has set her up on a ton of blind dates until they just start arriving at the restaurant. This is a contemporary romance, so I'm assuming at least one of these blind dates turns out very well and her dad finds her the love of her life. I think it's going to be an interesting time getting there. Roll number 7. In theory, this should be our last roll. Fingers crossed. And it is a mood read. Well, we have made it to the end of the Timmies TBR board with 7 rolls, 8 books if you are counting. Not exactly what I wanted, but it is what it is. For the last book, I get to do a mood read, and for this month and pretty much every month, because it never seems to fit into any of the prompts, I will be putting the B&K Book Club book for the month of August. Every month, my friend Kelsey and I read a book together on Discord and invite you all to come read it with us. We do sprints. We have a great time. The link is down below. But this month, we will be reading All the Dangerous Things by Stacey Willingham. This is a thriller around a missing child. A year ago, Isabel's life was drastically changed when in the middle of the night while she was sleeping with her husband, her 1-year-old son was taken from his crib. And now her entire existence, as I think any mother's would be, is to track down where her son is. I don't want to read any more of the synopsis because I kind of want to go in blind on this one. I know Kelsey loved The Flicker in the Dark by this author. I haven't read it yet, but I'm pretty excited to be putting this on my TBR. It sounds like a really interesting thriller. I think it's going to be a hard read as a parent, but I'm still excited to read it with Kelsey and all of you. So this stack looks small because this is my physical part of the August TBR, but I also have Little Thieves, All the Dangerous Things, Snow So White, and A Trial of Sorcerers on top of this stack. Plus, I will be floating over Paris Delacourt is About to Crumble and Julia Vanishes. So if you are counting, that means there is 10 books on my TBR for August. That's a bit. That's a bit considering I don't know if any of these are going to work for the Amazing Readathon. I really hope they do because 10 books is a lot. Plus other books if I have to add books. I can do it as long as some of these work for the Amazing Readathon. Fingers crossed. I don't have a lot of room to do any extra reading, so really hoping a lot of these fit for the Amazing Readathon. Anyway, that was Timmy's TBR for August. What is a book that you are most excited to get to in August, and are you participating in the Amazing Readathon? If you are, please let me know what team you are participating on down below, and also what book you are most excited to read in August. I would love to know. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.